Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown,
the unofficial sumo podcast
for official sumo fans.
All right. Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown. This is Ryan.
This is the shambling corpse of Jake.
And this is our Kyushu Banzuke prediction episode. Jake, why have you been left as a shambling corpse? I'd assume it is not just because you are celebrating the month of Halloween.
It is a month-long celebration. You're right. That is how that works. But no, I got in the dohyo for the first time and competed in Grand Rapids, and I am a lot more sore than I even expected. My expectations were high for soreness, and I have blasted right through.
What's your win-loss record?
Officially, I'm 1-2, but that win was a 13-year-old. So
okay.
Yeah. On the other hand, though, both of my losses were to guys that were multiple weight classes bigger than me. So
it sounds like you need to find some competition more in the Jake range of things.
Yeah, like more of those 13-year-olds.
I was going to say, was it a big 13-year-old? Because a big 13-year-old could equal one Jake.
He was huge.
Okay.
You got to see this guy.
You must have just had him in like the experience range, and so you beat him there. That's what it was.
Technically, he had more experience than me because he put on the belt and did a couple practice matches on Saturday, like the main day of the tournament. And I was doing commentary, so I didn't tie up and get in the ring until Sunday, like the more casual day of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I pulled off the upset, and so yeah, here's to you, Ben. Every time we meet, I will be a little older, and you will be a little stronger. So I'm gonna treasure.
You'll get what's coming to you. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, full coverage of the Beer City Sumo Open in Grand Rapids will be coming up. Just a day, maybe 2 days after you are listening to this. We've got Gabe from Grand Rapids who built the dohyo, or at least was, the main guy working on that. And in addition, we will have Matt Shields out of Chicago, who is my driving partner and another one of the names that you want to keep an eye on for helping grow sumo in the Midwest. So I won't go on too much about it today. So I guess we can talk about the Banzuke or whatever you think is important, Ryan.
I always think the Banzuke is important. It is the most important part of sumo for me. And so just up front, we're going to spend a lot of time. We're going to spend a very little amount of time for Yokozuna through sekiwake, a very large amount of time for Komosubi through Maegashira 3, and then the rest of it's going to fly. So it's going to be a very heavily loaded section. Oh, yeah, like the first 3.5 pages are Komosubi through Maegashira 3, Jake, and then...
What? How?
It's a log jam.
Book.
It's a log jam. We gotta unravel things. I think it actually has a fairly simple solution, but I like, how I like to get into details and explain how we got there.
Material. Yeah,
exactly. So let's begin stretching.
Let's go for it.
With the Yokozuna rank, obviously, Terano Fuji, he will still be there. At Ozeki, we're shrinking down from 3 Ozeki down to 2 Ozeki, with Mitake Yumi having back-to-back kind of losing records. He will be demoted from the Ozeki rank, leaving us with only Evil Takakeisho and Hapless Shodai.
Evil Takakeisho. Now that he has completed his heel turn into his final form. Yeah,
he is officially, as of now, Evil Takakeisho, and I will accept no other mention of him on this podcast unless it is as Evil Takakeisho.
Got it. So like Sekiwake Wakatakakage, you can't just say one part of it at a time.
Right.
It has to be the whole package. Yeah, got it.
Yeah. I think I can't decide if it's Ozeki Evil Takakeisho or Evil Ozeki Takakeisho. I kind of like Ozeki Evil Takakeisho.
As in, like, Evil Takakeisho is his given name and Ozeki is his title?
Yes.
Yeah, I got it.
All right.
Sure.
Speaking of sekiwake, we will have sekiwake Wakatakakage at Sekiwake East for the 5th consecutive basho, and we will have Hoshoryu at Sekiwake West for the 2nd consecutive basho, as both of those guys had winning records and will maintain their ranks. And joining them at the sekiwake ranks, we will have Mitake Yumi. He will drop down to Sekiwake 2 West. The dropping Ozeki is always the lowest ranked sekiwake, and he is on the west side to balance out the Banzuke Banzuke, with the sole Yokozuna being on the east side. So, like I said, those 3 ranks pretty quick and painless. But then we get to Komosubi. So this Banzuke has the issue that a lot have had in the recent past, where we have quite a logjam at the top of the rankings and very little room for upward movement. Based on the results of the Akibasho, there are 7 Rikishi that could be ranked sekiwake if there was an open slot for them. Obviously, that's not going to happen, and the only ones that are going to get the sekiwake rank were already there or are dropping from above that rank. So nobody's going to be vaulted into the sekiwake rank this basho. So that leaves us with 4 Rikishi to figure out what to do with, plus Daisho, who should only drop to Komosubi after his 7 and 8 performance from sekiwake. So we've got 5 guys that feasibly could be Komosubi. So we need to determine how many of them will actually be Komosubi. We had 3 in the Akibasho, but Ichinojo and Abi both had losing records and will fall from the Sanyaku ranks based on those records. So that means we're going to have 1 open slot to fill and then decide if we are going to create any new Komosubi slots. So we know Kiribayama will be Komosubi. He was Komosubi 2 West in the previous basho, and he had a 9 and 6 record. He'll stay there, no problem, easy. Mm-hmm. Then we've got 4 contenders for the open Komosubi West rank. It is Sekiwake Daisho, who had his 7 and 8 record, Maegashira 1 Tobizaru, who was 10 and 5, Maegashira 3 Tamawashi, Mr. Tamimawashi himself, with a 13 and 2 Yusho, and then Maegashira 4 Takayasu with an 11 and 4 record. We can safely eliminate Takayasu from that open Komosubi slot discussion
right there, honestly. I've come to terms with it.
Yeah, but I mean, he had a worse record from a lower rank than Tamawashi, so there's no way he could surpass Tamawashi to take that open Komosubi West slot. Okay. And then based on precedent, I think it's pretty safe to slot in Tamawashi for that open Komosubi West slot. If we take a look at Hatsu 2018, if you're kind of looking at Tamawashi versus Tobizaru, we had Hatsu 2018, Tochinoshin won from the Maegashira 3 rank, just like Tamawashi won from the Maegashira 3 rank. And Ichinojo in that basho was ranked Maegashira 1 and had a 10 and 5 record, just like Tobizaru did this basho. So on the following Banzuke, after Tochinoshin won the Yusho, he jumped over Ichinojo in the rankings on the following Banzuke. So I would expect Tamimawashi to do the same here. So we've got 2 Komosubi. We've got Kiribayama, Tamawashi. Now we need to take a look at the other 3 candidates to see if they have a case to create a new Komosubi rank, or if they're going to stay in the rank and files Maegashira ranks. So the first person we'll take a look at is Daisho, and we mention it every single time that there is a sekiwake with a 7 and 8 record. No sekiwake with at least 7 wins has dropped further than Komosubi for almost 30 years. There's been 3 times in that span where a new Komosubi rank was created just for that falling sekiwake. So I believe this is going to be the 4th instance where that occurs. I do think Daisho will create a new Komosubi rank to prevent him from dropping any further than 1 rank.
Fair enough.
Then Maegashira 1 Tobizaru. So in the last basho, in the Nagoya basho, we had a Maegashira 1 East Rikishi in Kiribayama, who had an 8 and 7 record. Like we saw, he forced open a new Komosubi slot. This time, the Maegashira 1 East was Tobizaru, had a 10 and 5 record, so he'll absolutely create a new Komosubi slot. So right now, we are sitting with 4 Komosubi that I am predicting. Then we look at Maegashira 4, Takayasu. What is his case to open up a new Komosubi slot? And immediately there's a couple things working against him. Never has there been more than 4 Komosubi on a Banzuke. And the last 2 times that we had a Maegashira 4 with 11 wins, they only made it up to the Maegashira 1 rank. And the lower Sanyaku ranks weren't even bloated at that time. It's not like, oh, well, if we didn't already have 4 Komosubi, of course we'd let you in here. It's like, no, that's just not good enough to open up a new rank at this point in time. unfortunately for Takayasu, I think he's going to fall just short of the Sanyaku ranks here. So, like I mentioned, I think we're going to have 4 Komosubi this time around, but what order are they going to land in? So if this combination of ranks and records occurred lower in the Banzuke where Sanyaku wasn't involved, Tamawashi would absolutely be ranked highest out of these 4 Komosubi candidates. But because we are dealing with crossing that Sanyaku threshold, we start to deal with the Sanyaku bias that exists. And it is that bias that leads me to believe Kiribayama will be Komosubi 1 East. We only have to look back one basho for precedent for that. Abi was ranked Komosubi West in Nagoya, had an 8-7 record. Ichinojo was ranked Maegashira 2 West, had a 12-3 record. Both were Komosubi the following basho, but Abi, who was previously Komosubi, was ahead of Ichinojo. So I think we will have the same thing here with Kiribayama ahead of Tamawashi. Then for that Komosubi 1 West slot, as I mentioned before, I think that Tamawashi is going to end up ahead of Tobizaru and Daisho, and he'll have that Komosubi 1 West spot. And then as to the order of Tobizaru and Daisho, based on past precedent of dropping sekiwake, creating new Komosubi slots, I think Tobizaru will be Komosubi 2 East and Daisho will be Komosubi 2 West. All 3 times that a new Komosubi slot has been opened for a dropping sekiwake, that dropping sekiwake was the lowest ranked Komosubi. I think it's very similar to how dropping ozeki are treated when they open up a new sekiwake slot. They're always the lowest ranked sekiwake that is there.
I gotcha.
So that's a lot there, Jake. Anything that you need me to unpack further in all of that, or does that all make sense to you?
You could help me unpack some of the electronics that I didn't get to yesterday. I brought more shit than I needed to Michigan, so I do have some work to do over here.
You know, I do have the entire week off this week just to myself, and somehow even with that schedule, I don't have time to help you out. So
something tells me it's not about the time, is it? No,
not
unpacking.
at all.
As far as the ranks go, I mean, the amount of history we have on these is obviously less than, like, you know, if somebody gets a 9 and 6 from Maegashira 10 or something. Like, you can go back and say, like, of the 7,000 times this happened, here's what happened, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, obviously when we're dealing with extra Sanyaku slots, it gets a little wonky. So
yeah.
But no, I don't I don't really have anything to add, but I'm curious because other than this current Banzuke, it had been kind of a while since we had anything weird to look at. So it is interesting, and I'm curious to add a little bit more sample size to our data set.
Yeah, and because that's what we've been seeing over the past couple of years is they had been a lot more stingy with creating these new Sanyaku ranks. We've seen multiple cases where 10 and 5 Rikshi from Maegashira 2, that used to be almost an automatic open up a new Komosubi rank for a 10 and 5 Rikshi from Maegashira 2. We've seen two or three instances recently where no, that's not good enough. You're only going up to Maegashira 1. Similarly with the Maegashira 4 with 11 wins that I mentioned. The only 2 times that a Maegashira 4 with 11 wins hasn't made it up to the Sanyaku ranks are the last 2 times that it's happened. So I don't know if that's due to they used to create new Sanyaku ranks for them. I could do the research on that right now, but I don't want to.
But I don't want to.
Or if this is just the first time they've run into that where there isn't an open slot for those guys, because we're kind of seeing the people in the upper ranks just aren't losing, or if they are losing, they're only getting like 7 and 8 records, so they're not dropping down too far. So there's just not these open slots for people that used to be available for them. They're usually, you're always good for 1 or 2 people dropping out of the Sanyaku ranks. That's just not happening anymore.
Right.
But yeah, we were just seeing that they were so stingy with handing out those extra Sanyaku ranks, and now it just feels like they're handing them out so freely. But we're running into these past 2 Basha, we're running into those exact right scenarios where they have historically opened up Sanyaku ranks, and that's what we saw them do last time. That's what I expect them to do this time.
Fair enough.
And also, if we don't open up all of these Sanyaku ranks, Maegashira 1 through 3 gets a lot more messy than it already is. So let's go ahead and unpack that, because like I said, once we unpack Maegashira 1 through 3, the rest of this is just going to be a breeze.
Yeah, but we do have some a little ways to go there.
Yeah. So we'll start with Maegashira 1. And like I said, we cleared 1 log jam only to enter another. We have 3 Rikshi that deserve to be ranked exactly Maegashira 1, plus Takayasu, who deserve to be ranked Sekiwake. Then we have 3 more Rikshi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 2. And then there are 2 more Rikshi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 3. So we have a total of 9 men vying for 6 spots and the Maegashira 1 through 3 ranks. So some people are going to be getting shafted pretty hard. And as I mentioned, if we didn't create the extra Komosubi slots, then we'd have 11 men vying for 6 spots, and it would just get even uglier from there. So I think not only are opening those Komosubi slots, I think obvious based on the situation, and that's first and foremost why they're going to create those extra Sanyaku slots, but it does make the rest of the Banzuke a little bit easier, not having to deal with all of those extra people for Maegashira 1.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we've got 4 people that deserve to be Maegashira 1. How do we decide who goes where? So
put Takayasu first.
I mean, probably, but let's take a look and figure out why.
All right, fine.
So we have Takayasu. Then we have both Maegashira 2 Rikshi, Kotonowaka and Meisei, who both had 8 and 7 records. And you have Maegashira 6, Wakamoto Haru, who was 10 and 5. So first and foremost, Wakamoto Haru is eliminated from contention here. Takayasu was higher ranked and had a better record, so Wakamoto Haru can't pass him to take the top Maegashira 1 rank. For similar reasons, Meisei cannot pass Kotonowaka. So it is down to Takayasu versus Kotonowaka. And once again, we don't have to look too far back in the history books for guidance on how to handle this situation. Takanosho, back in May of this year, he went 11 and 4 from the Maegashira 4 rank, and Kotonowaka went 9 and 6 from Maegashira 2. Takanosho jumped over Kotonowaka in the rankings, so very similar situation here. I think Takayasu will jump over Kotonowaka and claim the Maegashira 1 East rank. So
I think I can get behind that. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we have Kotonowaka, who is Maegashira 2 East. He had an 8 and 7 record. He needs to be promoted. The only slot left available that we could promote him to now is Maegashira 1 West. So we need to put Kotonowaka there, because I think we talked about it might have been that May Banzuke, but a few Banzuke ago, there was a situation where people thought, well, maybe this group of 8 and 7 Rikshi from Maegashira 2 to Maegashira 3, it's just so jammed up there. Maybe we don't promote them whatsoever. We talked through that a lot back then and said, no, that's not going to happen. We did find one instance in the 90s where that did happen, but their hand was absolutely forced there. And this is not a situation where their hand is absolutely forced. You could put Wakamoto Haru there and keep Kotonowaka and Meisei at their current rankings, or you could just move Kotonowaka up and give him the promotion he deserves. So that's what I think is going to happen.
That makes sense.
So Maegashira 2 on the east side, just like Kotonowaka, in order to ensure any promotion for Meisei after his winning record, he has to land at Maegashira 2 East, since he was previously Maegashira 2 West, and all other slots above him have been claimed. So poor Wakamoto Haru keeps getting forced further down the rankings than he deserved. But then we get to Maegashira 2 West, and we have some new players to join Wakamoto Haru in the hunt for this rank. We have Midori Fuji, who was 7 and 8 for Maegashira 1. We have Ura, who was 8 and 7 for Maegashira 3, and Sada Naomi, who was 9 and 6 for Maegashira 5. And also you could consider Ichinojo, who was 6 and 9 from Komosubi, and you often see those lighter demotions than the math would usually indicate for Rikshi falling out of the Sanyaku rank. So I think Ichinojo, despite the numbers saying he deserves to be Maegashira 3, I think he's very much in play for the Maegashira 2 West rank. Unfortunately for Wakamoto Haru and Sada Naomi, both of these guys were outside of the Joy, and so I'm going to continue to ignore them for this rank, because everybody else we're dealing with was in the Sanyaku and Joy, and we know from history they get the bias in the treatment here. So it comes down to either Midori Fuji, Ura, or Ichinojo for the Maegashira 2 West rank. And I ended up giving the rank to Midori Fuji here, looking at past precedent of what's more likely, because for some reason in my head, Ura never really was a big contender for this rank in my mind. It came down to either Ichinojo or Midori Fuji. So I just kind of looked at, all right, what's the history of, because if one of these guys is going to end up at Maegashira 3. So what's the history of a Maegashira 1 falling down to Maegashira 3? How typical is that fall? What's the history for a Komosubi falling down to Maegashira 3 after a 6-9 record? How typical is that? And I did find it is more likely for the Komosubi to fall that far down the Banzuke. I actually did some math. It looks like 18.2% of the time that a Komosubi has has a 6-9 record, they'll fall down to Maegashira 3, whereas a Maegashira 1, only 6.6% of the time will they fall down to Maegashira 3.
There's that sweet data.
Absolutely. The last time that a Komosubi dropped down to Maegashira 3 or worse after a 6-9 record was in 2015. The last time a Maegashira 1 dropped down to Maegashira 3 or worse after a 7-8 record was 2005. So based on that history, it just seems more likely that Midori Fuji would end up with that spot. They treat the Maegashira 1 Rikishi a little bit better than the falling Komosubi in that scenario. I also did the look up of, all right, if we have a Komosubi with a 6-9 record and also a Maegashira 1 with a 7-8 record, and they're both on the same side of the Banzuke, what is the typical outcome for that? And 5 out of 6 times the Maegashira 1 was ranked ahead of the Komosubi. So there's that one time where, as far as I can tell, it didn't make any sense why the Komosubi was ranked ahead of the Maegashira 1 there.
That's pretty strong precedent, though.
But
that's about as good as you're gonna get for something that's this nebulous.
Yeah. And then in the back of my mind is like, but you really could consider Ura here. But once again, recent history is providing us with a lot of data that we can look back at. So back in March of this year, we had a similar situation, not quite apples to apples. We had Tamawashi was 7-8 for Maegashira 2, and Endo was 8-7 for Maegashira 4. Tamawashi remained ahead of Endo when they were competing for the same spot. So it would just be like this situation. Midori Fuji remaining ahead of Ura in this situation. So,
gotcha.
Long story short, Midori Fuji, Maegashira 2 West.
Not that short, but I get your point.
So at Maegashira 3, on the east side, if Midori Fuji is going at Maegashira 2 West, then there's only one spot Ura can go to ensure that he gets promoted after his 8-7 record, and that is Maegashira 3 East. So despite still having Wakamoto Haru and Sada no Umi as options, and Hokuto Fuji joining them as an option to be promoted to this rank, I still think they are forced to wait their turn, and we have to put Ura at this spot. Then at Maegashira 3 West, in order to prevent a Sanyaku Rikishi from being over-demoted, which the Banzuke committee seems committed to preventing, Ichinojo would need to land at Maegashira 3 West. So I gave you a lot of reasons why I put these Rikishi in the order that I put them, a lot of like past precedent and stuff in this. But the main reason, especially Midori Fuji, Ura, Ichinojo, that I have the Rikishi landing in the order that I do, and did not include anybody like Wakamoto Haru or Sada no Umi, is that this is the only way you could put these ranks together to make sure everyone is promoted at least somewhat and no one is over demoted. One of the biggest things that I've learned doing the Banzuke over the past few years is that you protect higher ranked Rikishi from being over demoted in favor of a lower ranked Rikishi with a better record. So especially if those Rikishi were in the Joy, and especially if those Rikishi were in the Sanyaku ranks. So the main reason why I have Midori Fuji going at Maegashira 2 West is if we put anybody else there, then he's going down to Maegashira 3 and he's getting over demoted. And we have a way around that we can prevent that. So that's why Ura doesn't go up to Maegashira 2. That's why Ichinojo isn't getting any preferential treatment. For me, this is the only way that these ranks can go together where everybody gets what they want, and the only people we have to screw are outside of the Joy ranks, and those aren't real people anyway, so who cares?
Exactly, yes.
So After this point, after we pass Maegashira 3, we're through those couple of log jams that we had. Honestly, the rest of the Banzuke just kind of puts itself together fairly nicely, and there's not a whole lot of decisions that we have to make. So at Maegashira 4 on the east side, we have Wakamoto Haru, who has been sitting there since Maegashira 1, just waving his hand, pick me, pick me. He's that guy that's just getting passed over in the schoolyard pick, and you feel bad for him. And finally, it's at the end of the line, and they finally call his name. Wakamoto Haru ends up at Maegashira 4 East. And this is a very similar situation to a couple of Basho ago, where we had no show rise only 2 ranks after a 10-5 record from Maegashira 5. I've got Wakamoto Haru rising only 2 ranks after a 10-5 record from Maegashira 6. And similar situation for Sada Naomi. He's deserved to have been ranked since Maegashira 2, and I think he's going to end up Maegashira 4 West, only a 1 rank promotion after a 9-6 record for Maegashira 5. So we don't run into these situations very often where we're giving guys this much smaller of a promotion than their record would deserve. Typically, we're in the exact opposite situation. We're having to over promote people or under demote people. It's not very often that we have to under promote people, but that's kind of the situation that we were put in. And just once again, imagine if these guys, if they didn't have 4 Komosubi, if we didn't still have 10 Sanyaku ranks, Wakamoto Haru would be at like Maegashira 5.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay.
So let's talk about Maegashira 5. Hokuto Fuji has deserved to have been ranked since Maegashira 3, so I have him ending up at Maegashira 5 East, a 3-rank promotion after a 10-5 record for Maegashira 8 for him. And then at Maegashira 5 West, we have 2 more Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 5. Nishiki Fuji, who was 10-5 from Maegashira 10, and Ryuden, who was 11-4 from Maegashira 12. I have Nishiki Fuji taking the Maegashira 5 West rank, since he was previously on the east side of the Banzuke and Ryuden was previously on the west side, and that typically serves as a tiebreaker when you have guys whose rank and record would place them at the same rank. So I think should pretty easily end up with Nishiki Fuji ahead of Ryuden here.
Makes sense.
At Maegashira 6 on the east side, since we were just debating about Ryuden landing at Maegashira 5 West, makes sense that he gets the next spot at Maegashira 6 East. And then for the Maegashira 6 West spot, we have to pull from one of 2 Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 7. One of those Rikishi, however, is Endo, who went 7 and 8 from Maegashira 6 West, the spot we are trying to fill.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So instead of keeping him at his previous rank, we'll just put Nishikigi there, who will be dropping 2 ranks after his 6 and 9 record. Maegashira 7 on the east side. Endo's the only remaining Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 7, so I have him taking over the Maegashira 7 East spot. And then at Maegashira 7 West, the next Rikishi that deserves to be ranked is Miyogiryu, who is 8 and 7 for Maegashira 9. He only deserves to be Maegashira 8, but there's no other candidates to fill the Maegashira 7 West slot, so it goes to Miyogiryu there. Maegashira 8 on the east side.
This is like less exciting now.
It is. It really is. Like when it puts itself together, it's not as fun.
Yeah. Oh well. I'm still having fun, Ryan.
I can feel it, Jake. It's permeating through Zoom.
Oh man, if only like the physical pain could permeate through Zoom. You should see my leg.
You should see my tonsils.
I mean, I don't really want to.
Yeah. If we're going to be comparing physical pain we've been in, yeah, you worked out a little. Yay for you. I've had strep throat for the past week.
I worked out on a hard clay dohyo, Ryan. What the weirdest?
Yay.
You say that so sarcastically. It's one of the coolest things that any of us on the podcast have done for sumo. You know, and as a sumo wrestler, I do have a unique perspective on our show now, so I may bring that up once or twice here or there.
Yeah, as our on dohyo expert, I expect some very nuanced, detailed breakdowns of matches in the future coming from you.
Yep. One more quick thing before we jump back. A ways back, Sake and Sumo, Caleb and Justin were talking about Of all the podcasts, like the Grand Sumo Breakdown and Sumo Kaboom and Sumo Punks, we're like the ones that are like active wrestlers. So I took that personally.
Yeah.
Just I have now officially competed one time, so I am
Yeah.
exactly on par with, black belt Caleb Backus and longtime head coach Justin Kizzert.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. Okay, so sorry, break over. What rank are we on now?
We are at Maegashira 8, and in order to fill up the Maegashira 8 ranks, we need to pull up 2 Rikishi that deserve to be Maegashira 9. Very similar to the Endo situation, one of those Rikishi is Tochi Noshin, who was 7 and 8 from Maegashira 8 East, the exact spot we're currently trying to fill. So instead of keeping him at his previous rank, we'll put Takanosho there, who will rise 2 ranks after an 8 and 7 record from Maegashira 10. Then at Maegashira 8 West, that's where we will have Tochi Noshin land a half rank drop to the Maegashira 8 West rank. And we get to Maegashira 9. For the Maegashira 9 ranks, we need to pull up 2 Rikishi that deserve to be Maegashira 10. They are Takada Fuji, who was 5 and 10 from Maegashira 5, and Awayama, who was 6 and 9 from Maegashira 7. They were both on the east side on the previous Banzuke, so we cannot use that as a tiebreaker. And then did some digging on Sumo DB, and based on past precedent, it really looks like in this range of the Banzuke, the higher ranked Rikishi with a 5 and 10 record has been ranked ahead of the lower ranked Rikishi with a 6 and 9 record. So I'm going to put Takada Fuji at Maegashira 9 East and Awayama at Maegashira 9 West. Then we get to Maegashira 10. Maegashira 10 East rank is pretty easy. We only have one Rikishi that deserves to be ranked at Maegashira 11. So we're going to pull him up from there and put Chiyoshoma at Maegashira 10 East after his 9 and 6 record from Maegashira 14. Then when we get to Maegashira 10 West, we need to start pulling from further down the Banzuke. We're looking at a group of 3 Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 12, but we do actually have another option. We had Abi, who was Kyujo this Basho from the Komosubi rank. And so it's always kind of difficult to figure out where are we going to put that high ranked Rikishi who had a terrible record. Where do they end up on the Banzuke? Well, actually, it might not be that hard. If you take a look at the last 6 times a sekiwake or a Komosubi got 0 wins in a basho, you would see that they all ended up at the Maegashira 10 rank. The past 6 instances. That's going back to like 2003 or something. So who am I to fight history?
Well, that's boring again, though.
Exactly.
Okay.
Who am I to fight that history and precedent? I will put Abi there. It also makes sense to put Abi here because you kind of find a place for those Rikishi falling down the Banzuke to fill a hole to prevent people from being pulled up too far up the Banzuke. And so Abi's kind of filling a hole here so we don't have to pull people 2 ranks up the Banzuke for the first time on this one. We still only have to pull people up 1 rank further than they deserve. So we're going to use Abi kind of as a stopgap there. And also that's just where history tells us he's going to end up.
Sure.
At Maegashira 11, so we talked about that group of 3 Rikishi that deserve to be Maegashira 12, and we're finally going to start picking from them here. So one of those group of 3 is Koto Shoho, who went 7 and 8 from Maegashira at 11 East spot. So we're not going to consider him because that's the rank we're currently trying to fill. Then we have Onosho, who went 5 and 10 from Maegashira 7, and Koto Ueko, who went 6 and 9 from Maegashira 9. Very similar to the Takada Fuji versus Aoyama debate. Both on the same side of the Banzuke previous time. So we're going to go with the Rikishi that had the higher rank but worst record ahead here. So that would put Onosho going at the Maegashira 11 East spot. Then at Maegashira 11 on the west side, there is a big part of me that wants to put Koto Ueko here and demote Koto Shoho a full rank. But these guys were all tied as to where they deserve to go on the Banzuke, and Koto Shoho was previously on the west side while Koto Ueko was on Koto Shoho was on the east side while Koto Ueko was on the west side. So I am going to use that tiebreaker and demote Koto Shoho only a half rank to the Maegashira 11 West rank. I could easily see them flipping Koto Shoho and Koto Ueko here, but I'm going to see if that east-west side allows them to just push Koto Shoho down a half rank and not full rank when there is somebody to kind of push him down further if we wanted to do that. So it's kind of this is a way for me to really track and see what they do in this situation. Do they do that? Do they have the East-West rank take precedence here, or do they really want to see this guy get a full rank demotion for his 7-8 record instead of just sliding over from the east side to the west side? So kind of doing this just on a hunch, but also as kind of a way to track the situation for future purposes.
Sure, like a point of data you are looking forward to having straightened out.
Yeah, because I'm specifically gonna seek this out when the Banzuke comes out, see how they handle the situation. Where if I did it the other way, might not really think about it too hard once the Banzuke comes out.
Exactly. Okay.
So Maegashira 12 on the east side, that's where we have Koto Waco landing. And then we have the Maegashira 12 west rank. There are no more Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 12. There are no Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 13. So to fill the Maegashira 12 west rank, we have to look at 2 Rikishi that deserve to be Maegashira 14. Once again, one of those guys is immediately eliminated because it is Oho, who went 7-8 from Maegashira 13. We obviously can't give him a promotion, so we're going to place Chiyo Tairyu at Maegashira 12 West after he had a 6-9 record for Maegashira 11, so only a 1 rank drop for Chiyo Tairyu after a 6-9 record. Then we get to Maegashira 13. On the east side, we still can't look at Oho for this spot. He's the next guy that deserves to be ranked, but we can't put him here because it would be a half rank promotion for him. So now we have to look at Rikishi who deserves to be Maegashira 15, and we have 2 Rikishi that deserve to be Maegashira 15. We got to pull one of them up for the Maegashira 13 East spot, but one of those Rikishi is Azumaryu, who was 9-6 from Juryo 2, and he's tied with Oki no Umi, who was 6-9 from Maegashira 12 for where they deserve to be ranked. In a tied scenario, when it comes between a Maegashira and a Juryo Rikishi, we always go against the Juryo Rikishi in that situation. So I have Oki no Umi landing at Maegashira 13 East. He was 6-9 for Maegashira 12 rank. So once again, another 1 rank drop that I have for Oki no Umi here after a 6-9 record. This is another thing I'm going to be curious about. I am wondering, are they going to drop like these guys only 1 rank after a 6-9 record, or will they put Azumaryu here in order to push Oki no Umi further down the Banzuke? It's just, I'm not ever gonna bet on a Juryo Rikishi again, so we're gonna push Azumaryu as far down as we can.
The simplest version of the rule is, when in doubt, just be mean to the people in Juryo. That's the simplified rule of thumb.
Absolutely. So then at Maegashira 13 West, instead of demoting Oho in favor of a Juryo Rikishi, in favor of Azumaryu, we're going to leave Oho at the Maegashira 13 West rank after his 7-8 record, because by the numbers, Oho does deserve to be ahead of Azumaryu. So I can't see them demoting Oho in favor of the Juryo Rikishi. So we're going to leave Oho where he is at. Then we get to Maegashira 14. We have Azumaryu as the next Rikishi who deserves to be placed. He's the only Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 15. But our rule that we've been using recently for placing a Juryo Rikishi ahead of a Maegashira Rikishi is that Juryo Rikishi needs to be deserve to be ahead of that Maegashira Rikishi by at least 2 ranks. And unfortunately for Azumaryu, there is a Maegashira who deserves to be Maegashira 16, which is only 1 rank behind where Azumaryu deserves to be ranked. So once again, instead of putting Azumaryu at Maegashira 14 East, I'm going to take Ichi Yamamoto, who went 6-9 from the Maegashira 13 rank, and place him at the Maegashira 14 rank. Once again, only a 1 rank demotion for a 6-9 Rikishi.
Not unheard of, but
not unheard of, but we could push all of these guys down a half rank further at least by putting Azumaryu ahead of them. And really, what's the difference between a 1 rank demotion and 1.5 rank demotion? Sure. So I don't think that's going to factor too heavily into it. I think the anti-Juryo bias should hold more sway here.
Gotcha.
Maegashira yeah, Maegashira 14 West. That is where we're going to finally put Azumaryu there. I can find no other arguments to put somebody ahead of him because the next person who deserves to be ranked is another Juryo Rikshi. So we get to Maegashira 15. Yeah.
Okay.
We get to Maegashira 15. We've pulled everybody that we could that deserves to be in the Maegashira ranks. And now we have to start pulling from a pool of Rikshi that deserve to be down in Juryo at Juryo 1. And there are only 2 Rikshi that deserve to be at least Juryo 1. And once again, one of them is going to be immediately eliminated because one of them is Hirata Umi, who was 7 and 8 from Maegashira 16. So we can't pull him up to the Maegashira 15 rank, which means that I have Kagayaki making his triumphant return to the top division at the Maegashira 15 East rank after he had a 9 and 6 record from the Juryo 4 rank. So yay, all you Kagayaki fans.
There's dozens of them.
I doubt it.
No, they all suck anyways.
Yeah.
That's right, Kagayaki fans.
We're calling you out.
I went there.
Yeah. Come at us. You won't because you don't exist.
Cowards. Not existing and such.
Maegashira 15 on the west side. We would still want to pull from the Juryo 1 rank pool, but Hirata Umi is the only guy in that pool. We can't pull him up here. So now we got to start looking at Rikshi that deserves to be ranked Juryo 2. And there are 3 of them. One of them is Terutsuyoshi, who went 6 and 9 from Maegashira 15 East. And this is a situation where I think they would like to give him at least one full rank of demotion here instead of just sliding him over from Maegashira 15 East to Maegashira 15 West. So I do think they will pull a Juryo Rikshi ahead of a Maegashira Rikshi here. And the Juryo Rikshi we could choose from that deserve to be Juryo 2 that we'd have to pull up into the spot are either Atami Fuji or Toha Kuryu. Atami Fuji and Toha Kuryu were both Maegashira 3 Rikshi with 8 and 7 records. Atami Fuji was on the east side, so Toha Kuryu cannot be ranked ahead of him. So despite Atami Fuji not deserving to be ahead of Terutsuyoshi by 2 ranks, and Terutsuyoshi being eligible to be put at this spot, I'm still going to go with Atami Fuji at the Maegashira 15 West rank because this is a spot where I do think they're going to want to see at least a 1 rank demotion here.
Sure. That's a pretty weak field for promotions too.
It is. There's 3 strong demotion cases that are going to be gone. Yutakayama, Tsurugisha, Mitoryu. And there's only 1 slam dunk promotion case. And then there's like 3 or 4 very soft promotion cases and like 2 or 3 soft to very soft demotion cases at the bottom of Maegashira. I've seen debate on whether there's going to be 3, 4, or 5 demotions. I feel pretty strongly about what I have, and we'll get to that. But yeah, so let's just get to that.
So let's do that then.
Yeah. So I do think the Banzuke committee is gonna want to see at least 1 full rank demotion after a 6 and 9 record for Terutsuyoshi. So I am gonna pull Atami Fuji ahead of him when I normally wouldn't, and have Atami Fuji go at the Maegashira 15 West rank. So then we get to our final 2 Maegashira ranks at Maegashira 16. We're looking at 2 Rikshi, Terutsuyoshi and Toha Kuryu, who could take the Maegashira 16 East rank. Both of them deserve to be the same rank, and we've already moved a handful of 6 and 9 Rikshi down only 1 rank. So what's 1 more? I have Terutsuyoshi landing at Maegashira 16 East. We're not going to move 2 Juryo Rikshi ahead of him when they both deserve the same rank. We'll leave it with Atami Fuji and say no thank you to Toha Kuryu at this time. And then at Maegashira 16 West, it's going to come down to either keeping Hirata Umi at his previous rank after a 7 and 8 record, or promoting Toha Kuryu after an 8 and 7 record from Juryo 3. I think this is a spot where Hirata Umi gets very lucky and keeps his rank despite having a losing record as the bottom guy on the Banzuke. In the end, Hirata Umi deserves to be ranked ahead of any remaining Juryo Rikshi that would take his place. And the ultimate rule in this portion of the Banzuke is to be an asshole to the Juryo Rikshi, so that's what I'm going to do. We're going to keep Hirata Umi there because we've seen it before. I don't remember exactly what Banzuke it was, but there was a time where Chiyoshima was Maegashira 17 East or 17 West, whatever the last spot of the Banzuke was. He had a 7-8 record. There just wasn't a good enough compelling case from Juryo to take his spot, so he remained the last guy on the Banzuke for another Basho. So I think that's exactly what we're going to see here.
Fair enough.
So that means we have three guys. I have three guys joining the Maegashira ranks: Azumaru, Kakayaki, and Atami Fuji, which means we got to send three guys down. Those being Yutakayama, who had a 4-11 record for Maegashira 14, Tsurugisho, who had a 5-10 record for Maegashira 15, and Mitoryu, who had a 5-10 record from Maegashira 15. So Jake, what do you think I potentially got wrong on this Banzuke? I don't think I left you with a whole lot of wiggle room on what there could be. Like, there's not a whole lot of ambiguity to this. I think this should be a very high scoring guess the Banzuke game. Everything just kind of really falls into place based on previous logic that has been given to us. There's not a whole lot of scenarios where we have to figure out what's going on. Like, even in those log jams, there's really only one or two ways you could put it together that it makes sense.
I mean, I was looking forward to disagreeing with you more strongly on something so I could pull the as a sumo wrestler card again.
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna kind of waffle like I have several times, and just instead of picking something I think you got wrong, just pick something that I think is the most interesting thing that is worth paying attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that is the extra Sanyaku slots again.
Okay.
It's still a novelty because it had been like a year or few since we'd seen extra Sanyaku slots.
Yep.
Until last Banzuke. So I think that is what I'll be looking for. Like, when the Banzuke comes out, that's the first place I'll look, because other than that, there's really not a whole lot of like super weird stuff. Like Abi dropping, that one is like, huge drops like that are the only other thing that are like super novel from Banzuke to Banzuke,
Yep.
So I don't know. But the Sanyaku slots is where I'll be looking first. I don't necessarily disagree with any of your logic. I just think that's probably the most intriguing part.
Oh, you know what? I was actually wrong about my sekiwake Komosubi thing. So the last 4 have ended up at Maegashira 10. Miyugiryu was 0-15 from sekiwake in 2014. He ended up at Maegashira 11, and then the 2 prior to that ended up at Maegashira 10. And then even before that, like in 2003, like Taka no Waka. This is just extra fun fact stuff that I'm. That sounds
like
Sumo
like
DB.
We were talking about on our review episode. That name sounds fake.
Yeah, Taka no Waka.
Taka no Waka.
He was 0-15, like held out due to injury from sekiwake. Only ended up at Maegashira 6, and the same thing. Same thing happened the year prior. Kotomitsuki 0-15 from sekiwake, Maegashira 6. So it seems like it's a fairly recent thing to treat them as harshly as they've been treated, only going down to Maegashira 10. Sure. Previously, it looks like fairly consistently they held on to the single-digit Maegashira spots.
Well, there you go. Maybe that's the one that you'll be furthest off on, even if it's by a small margin.
We will see. I doubt it, but we will see. Yeah. So that's all I got for this Banzuke episode. The Banzuke will be released on October 31st of this year, for the Basho starting on November 13th. If you enjoy this podcast, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast listening service.
Find us on all the stuff like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and grandsumobreakdown.wordpress.com. You can find all of our backlog. Yep. grandsumobreakdown@gmail.com is our email address.
Yep. And if you want to leave us a voicemail with any comments or questions, you can call us at 805-613-7866. That is 805-613-SUMO. Jake has plenty of amateur sumo stuff that'll be coming up before the Banzuke is released, and Jake and I get back together to record the Banzuke review episode, so keep an eye out for those.
And Ryan will crawl back into his cocoon until he is needed for more Banzuke stuff.
Yeah, and I thought you were gonna say to recover from what's ailing me, but like my voice,
also that, yeah.
my voice has deteriorated, I can tell, throughout this episode. Weird after I've monologued for 45 minutes.
I spoke as little as possible to see how much I could get out of you.
We did have to uncharacteristically take like 2 breaks, and that just shows you how defeated my body has made me at this point. It's actually not.
Go eat some like pumpkin spice chanko or something like that, and get get well soon.
How about a bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios? How does that work for you?
All right, fine.
Thank you for listening to Grand Sumo Breakdown. Until next time,
Throw your salt high.
And keep moving forward.